and welcome once again to Real Shame. It's twice a week, sometimes more, show where we talk about our list of movie blind spots, movies we haven't seen that we are trying to remedy and see. My name's Andy.
I'm Adam.
I don't know why I just laughed crazily like that, but today we're going to talk about a couple of, one movie, this week I guess we're going to talk about a couple of movies that I have not seen. But before we get into the movie today, we always like to start off every Monday episode with what we've been watching lately. So, Adam, what have you been watching lately?
Oh, interesting question. I'm always surprised by this question. I've watched a bunch of movies lately. We went on like a Gerard Butler kick. So we watched I call it the Falling Down series. I don't know, it's not Michael Douglas's in Falling Down, but it's the Olympus Has Fallen, London Has Fallen, Angel Has Fallen of those movies. Okay. Have you seen any of those?
No.
So they're what you would expect. They're mindless fun. The London Has Fallen is the best of the three. The middle one.
Okay.
Even though Anton Fuqua directed Olympus Has Fallen, which he's a pretty well-known director. Mm-hmm. And didn't he win like Academy Award for? Didn't he do
I don't know if he's ever won anything?
Because I thought he did the Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke
Training Day, yeah, but I don't think he won.
But
well, he didn't win director, but he might have won.
Denzel won acting.
Denzel won for that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I watched those. Mindless fun. Kirby hasn't seen those, so those are a lot of fun to watch. And then I followed that up with Den of Thieves, which is another Gerard Butler movie.
Okay, haven't seen that.
That's a Netflix original, and this movie is very interesting to watch in today's times because you very much have like a rogue squad of police officers who will stop at nothing to stop these thieves from robbing whatever they're going to rob. And, just with what's going on now and the kind of the light that's been shined on, police brutality and all that kind of stuff, it's just kind of like, ooh.
Is it a newer movie? Like, when did it come out?
I think it came out 2 years ago. It's a relatively new movie, yeah.
Okay.
It's a fun movie. It's kind of like a Heat kind of esque movie a little bit, I think, where you're rooting for the bad guys, you're rooting for the good guys. They're gonna face off and stuff. But just the biggest thing that kind of stuck out to me was just kind of how well it fares with everything that's kind of going on in the news now.
Right.
And the other two things we saw was Kirby's never seen Cube, and she was into those, I call them contained thrillers. Mm-hmm. So I showed her Cube, and Cube, not as cool as it was in the late 90s, early 2000s.
You did, so
I don't think it held up as well.
I mean, I still like it.
Yeah.
I saw it a few years ago. I mean, again, I watched the Cube and the sequel. So the sequel is Hypercube, and then Cube Zero, which is like a prequel to
Which
Cube.
I think they should have had a Cube. Like, why isn't there a Cube
to
the third power?
That makes more sense. But I'd never seen Part 2 and Part 3, so that was the first time. But Cube's not great, but I still have fun with it because to me, it's almost like a Twilight Zone kind of film or whatever. But I still like it.
And then the last thing was I finally watched Train to Busan.
Okay.
Which I thought was good. I saw the sequel trailer to it. Peninsula, I think is what it's called. And that doesn't look interesting at all. But Train to Busan was a good movie. It was enjoyable.
Yeah, I liked it. To me, it was definitely just kind of more of an action movie.
Yeah,
I didn't think anything remotely about it was scary
or
anything like that. And I don't even remember if there's even any jump scares in it. It just seemed more kind of balls to the wall action to me. But
there's some
it was good.
Thrilling aspects to it, and there's like a lot of tension, like with the zombies getting somewhere or things happening. But there's no really like jump
I remember there's
like
like some baseball players at one point or something. Yeah. Remember that.
And it had one of the baseball players is the kid that was in Parasite, the older brother.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The tutor.
Of course, I saw Parasite after I saw Train to Busan, so he was not well known to me. I mean, still not well. I couldn't tell you what his name is, but I would recognize him probably now.
So that's kind of what I've been watching, just a bunch of fun kind of movies. What about yourself?
So we reviewed CB4 on the show, and at the end of that episode, I think I mentioned that there was another kind of mockumentary that came out, I think maybe a year after, maybe the same year, I want to say a year after, called Fear of a Black Hat.
Yep.
And after we shot that episode, I went home and I saw that Fearful Black Cat was on Amazon Prime.
Yep.
So I was like, you know what? I had seen it before, just like I'd seen CB4 before. But I want to watch it again to see kind of how it stacked up against CB4. I thought Fearful Black Cat was good, and honestly, I think it's not nearly as funny as CB4, but I feel like the satire in it is more clever than CB4, because CB4 is just kind of I don't want to say toilet humor, but it's got more lowbrow humor, I would say. And Fear of a Black Cat, I feel like, has kind of more highbrow humor. One thing about Fear of a Black Cat that I think we kind of lamented about CB4 was that in CB4 they only have like 2 original songs, and then they do a cover of Rapper's Delight, which I don't count. In Fear of a Black Cat, they have a bunch of original songs, and a lot of them are quite funny. But I feel like the satire is really, really clever. I still think I prefer CB4 more just because it's funnier. It makes me laugh more. But I think Fear of a Black Cat is definitely worth a watch. And then right after I watched that, I rewatched Pootie Tang from, I think, 2001. Written and I believe directed by Louis C.K.
Yeah,
have you ever seen Pootie Tang?
I know it was written by Louis C.K. I have seen bits of it. I have not seen the whole thing.
It's not good, honestly. But it's just so silly. It makes me laugh. And I mean, but seriously, they should have just kept it as like a short film. Like, it does not sustain 90 minutes at all. But the stuff that is funny, I mean, it's really funny. And I think it's funny how he just talks like gibberish the whole time, but everybody seems to understand him. And honestly, I think the time is ripe. I don't think the world was ready for Pootie Tang in 2001. I think the world is ready now. I think they need to come out with a reboot of Pootie Tang. They're rebooting everything else.
Would it be like a gritty reboot, like like Warner did with all the DC?
No. Let's keep it light. But honestly, this movie has no story really. They just expected to coast by on the fact that this guy says funny things like nobody understands. People do understand him, but the audience can't understand him. And Wanda Sykes is in it, and she just kind of is loud and annoying and stuff like that. They need to do a little bit better with it. But if you're listening, whoever you are out there, reboot Pootie Tang. Trust me. Moving on. I watched the new Charlie's Angels, speaking of reboots, the one with Kristen Stewart.
Yep. How was that?
2 other girls that I have no idea what their names are. My expectations were super low, and it's surprisingly not terrible. But I'm not a fan of the McGee ones, really.
Isn't like Drew Barrymore Bosley or something like that? Or
no, she's not in it at all. It's Elizabeth Perkins, who also directed it.
Gotcha.
And Patrick Stewart's in it.
Yep.
Can't go wrong with Patrick Stewart.
No.
But it's not great, but I feel like if you set your expectations down here, like down line, I was about to go below the camera, but down here, not up here, then you might enjoy it. I don't know what your thoughts are about the McGee ones, but those are so silly. I feel like this one tries to be a little more grounded in reality. I mean, it's still unrealistic, but and again, this is not a great movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I didn't think it was terrible. I guess that's the best way to put it. Yeah,
I enjoyed the McGee ones for what they were when they came out in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
So I remember this one coming up. I never sought it out. What was it? Streaming?
Yeah, that's the story of my life these days. I'm at home so much. Movies that I never had any intention of going to the theater to see or to even pay money to see because of the virtue that I've already paid money for the streaming service that they're on. I'm like, you know what? I'll just watch it. Yep. So, and then finally, finished with the Bond films.
Yes.
So started rewatching the Mission Impossible films.
Okay.
And I had kind of like with the Bond films, I had seen them all except for one, and the one that I had not seen was Rogue Nation.
Oh, really?
Whatever the next to the latest one was.
I think it was Rogue Nation before Fallout.
Yeah, I had not seen Rogue Nation, but I had seen all the rest of them at least once. I saw Fallout in the theater.
I have opinions about the Mission Impossible movies, so I'm very curious about this.
Well, so far I've actually watched all the way up till Fallout. That's the only one I have not rewatched.
Okay.
But you don't like Brian De Palma.
No, I don't think. I don't think he's a good director. I said that last episode or a couple episodes ago.
I disagree. But I really like the first one still. It's very quaint now, and it's dated for sure, just technology-wise or whatever. But I still like it a lot. I hate the second one. I've always hated the second one.
Yeah.
And I'll be frank, I pretty much hate John Woo's movies that he made in America. Like I just am not a big fan. I like John Woo prior to coming to America and making films, but I'm just not big on his stuff. Mission Impossible 2 is just ridiculously bad. 3 is really good. Philip Seymour Hoffman's. I think that's your favorite, right?
3 is my favorite of the series. I think J.J. Abrams woefully underrated for bringing us that gem of the movie.
I mean, I like it. I think Philip Seymour Hoffman's villain is probably the best thing about it.
I like that you see Ethan's home life. I like that they kind of give him, not new powers, but you can see him like read lips. Like him throwing out the ice and saying he needs to go get ice is still like really funny to me. Mm-hmm. But I just think it's just a well-rounded, very well-crafted movie. It just feels like, and Philip Seymour Hoffman is very threatening in it, where you really don't get it from. Definitely not from 2, and not even from the first one. It's just kind of like, these in the first Mission Impossible movies, it feels like these things are in play and Ethan's trying to catch up, and there's really the conflict, but there's no like physical kind of conflict, right? But I feel like Philip Seymour Hoffman, like with the stuff on the plane and like the stuff at the end of the movie, like it feels like he feels very threatening. He feels like a very good antagonist that you didn't get leading up to that movie, and I actually feel like you don't get since, because I'm not a big fan of the Fallout villain and the Rogue Nation villain, the guy that Christopher McQuarrie brought on, or that he's using for those. So I mean, I love 3. I think 3 is a great action movie.
When's the last time you saw it?
3?
Yeah.
I probably watched it before we watched when Fallout came out.
Oh, okay, so pretty recently.
Yeah, I watch it pretty regularly.
I think I like Ghost Protocol the best.
I think for me. And I'm sorry I'm jumping on you. I think Ghost Protocol is just too silly. Like, I think Brad Bird does a really good...
I thought 3 was sillier than Ghost Protocol, honestly.
I think all the equipment malfunctioning and all that kind of stuff that kind of happens with Ghost Protocol, to me, just makes it feel very, like, slapsticky.
That whole sequence where he's outside the Burj Khalifa is nail-biting and cool.
It is. I agree with you, but also when he's, like, climbing and he sees the glove, and the glove just flies away, it's like, I really didn't need that. But that's just my opinion.
And then the one that I had not seen up until now, Rogue Nation, was just okay. I wasn't like hugely thrilled with it. And then I liked Fallout when I saw it. I need to rewatch it again. That's the only one that I haven't watched. But that's all I've been watching lately.
All right. We should go in depth in Mission Impossible 3, and I'll convert you on why that's.
I mean, I like it. I just don't. It's not my favorite. And I like Brian De Palma.
All right. With that, let's go into Chronicle.
I've been lifting weights too.
This is my theory, though, is that it's like a muscle. Like, it's elastic. If you stretch it too far, too quick, it'll tear.
Ew.
That's why I think we're getting stronger, because we're working it out, getting buff.
Buff? How about this for a workout?
Oh, shit. That was awesome. Classy.
Mm-hmm. Factor.
I think it's time we took this out of the backyard.
Our feature review, which is Chronicle. So there's a saying. It's power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so I think we should add to that where it's superpowers corrupt superbly. So Chronicle follows 3 friends as they discover a mysterious object in the ground that gives them superpowers. As they learn to harness these powers, they start giving in to their base desires. It stars Dane DeHaan as Andrew, Alex Russell as Matt, and one of Michael B. Jordan's first performances before he became the film star, that is Michael B. Jordan, as Steve Montgomery. This is a movie I saw when it came out in theaters, and I saw it pretty close when it came out in theaters. And it came out in 2012. It was directed by Josh Trank, who would go on to direct Fantastic Four and also direct Trumbo, that got renamed to Capone. And it was written by Max Landis, who, Max Landis has some, also some things about him too.
What?
he has some like criticisms about the way he's treated people and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Kind of like Josh Trank does later on in his career. So that being said, it's a movie I've seen, movie Andy hasn't seen. What did you know about Chronicle leading up to it, and what did you think about Chronicle after watching it?
I don't know that I remember when this movie came out, like really hearing about it. But once I kind of became aware of it, I just thought of it like another kind of young adult superhero movie. Like if you'd have told me this was the same movie as Push, are you familiar with that movie with Chris Evans and I think Dakota Fanning might be in that? If you'd have told me they were the same movie, I would have believed you.
Okay.
I had no clue what Chronicle was. And even after Fantastic Four came out and was such a huge bomb.
Yep.
And then Capone, and and then people were like, "Oh, Josh Trank, is he a one-hit wonder?" And I was like, "What's his one hit?" And it's like, "Oh, he did that movie Chronicle," but I really had no idea much about it at all. So I more of it that I knew the most I knew about it was more from the reputation of Josh Trank than I really knew about the movie, and I knew that they could like fly and stuff, and somewhere along the way I heard that it was like a found footage kind of film, but that's about all I knew about it.
What I wrote in my notes was, remember found footage films?
Yeah.
But
I think they're still cranking them out. I don't know that they've gone away, and maybe they should go away for a while.
So what do you think of it after watching Chronicle?
I actually did like it overall.
Yeah.
I found it very hard to not think about Josh Trank's career while I was watching it.
Me, Josh Trank's career, and Max Landis's controversies were like top of my mind while I was watching this movie. Yeah. I had the same problem.
Well, so I don't know anything about Max Landis other than he's John's kid or John Landis's kid. But I obviously I know Josh Trank, as I just mentioned a minute ago, Fantastic Four, and I've seen Fantastic Four, and it is abysmal. I mean, a lot of times critics say this movie sucks, and then I watch it and I go, well, it's not that bad. I thought this was as bad as they all said. Like it was absolutely terrible. I have not seen Capone, but I don't hear good things about it either. So the whole time I'm watching it, I'm thinking, okay, this better be good because this guy, supposedly this is his only good movie so far. And he's had now a career for, I guess, about a decade, right? Because this came out, 2011, 2012? 2012. So he's had a career for about almost a decade or whatever, at least a directing career. But I actually did like it. I didn't love it. The found footage thing is stale to me already. But I thought that I think it helps this movie's pretty short. So it's not like it drug on for 2 hours where I had to sit through slog through a bunch of stuff. I liked the special effects for the most part, and I thought that they got away with most of them pretty well. Some of the stuff, I didn't think looked as good. I didn't like when at one point they're flying in the sky and like a plane almost hits them. I was like, they didn't hear that, and like it's like obscured by the clouds, and all of a sudden it just runs by them. Some of the things they do in the movie, like his cousin, and you said the names of obviously I know Michael B. Jordan and I know Dane DeHaan. The third guy, I have no clue who that is.
Yeah, I don't. I looked him up on IMDb, and he's acted since that movie, but I don't think he's.
I thought he was the weakest part of the three guys, and his whole little kind of subplot with his girl that he likes went nowhere for me. And I didn't like the fact that it sometimes she just happened to be like a video vlogger or whatever, and it just happened to go to her footage. Like once I finished the movie, of course, as I always do, I like to kind of read through. And again, I read through after I've already made up my mind about what I think. I don't read it so that I can get ideas, but I just want to see if people agree with what I think about it. And I was reading through some critiques, and people were saying that they didn't like the fact that it's never explained where this footage comes from.
I wrote right in my notes, who's compiling all this footage?
That actually didn't bother me at all. I felt like because the title of it is Chronicle, and a chronicle is just like basically a sequence of things that happen, and I just felt like it's some omniscient, powerful or whatever, kind of person that has just put this all together, but they don't need that girl's footage. Like that didn't do anything for me. Like when it switched to her camera or whatever, it could have just been Dane DeHaan's camera.
But it also switched to like CCTVs, and that kind of got on my nerves.
I didn't mind that because to me, and I'm probably not alone in this, that last part of the movie is the absolute best part of the movie when they really just unleash and they're flying around and it's like you're watching Superman versus, Brainiac or something like that. That part was awesome, I thought. I understand they can't do that the whole movie, so it's unrealistic of me to expect that the whole movie is going to be them duking it out. And why would they, right? I mean, it's only there at the end. He's had enough. He's been bullied. He's been bullied by people. He's been bullied by his father or stepfather or whatever. So it makes sense that he goes kind of berserk there at the end. But once that happened, I was like, this is cool. So it didn't really bother me that it was kind of switching between like CCTV footage or whatever, closed camera or whatever. I thought Michael B. Jordan is killed off very unceremoniously, and I almost felt like they just did that so they could have this guy against this guy, the cousins against each other, so they don't need Michael B. Jordan in there because he gets struck by lightning. Is that right?
Yeah. Well,
when he's like flying in the
Dane
sky.
DeHaan figures out how to use his power to make sure that he gets struck by lightning in the clouds. But yeah.
And then right after that, Dane DeHaan is like filming at the funeral. Who the hell would do that? I thought that was weird.
Well, he's creepy the whole movie.
He is creepy. And honestly, the ending where the guy just goes to Tibet and he's like, "Oh, you made it." I thought was kind of
the camera there.
Yeah, I just thought that was like a
weird.
silly kind of ending. But I mean, overall I enjoyed it. There wasn't enough about it that I really disliked to where I could really have a negative reaction towards the movie. And I thought that again, the special effects were decent enough. They were good enough that I didn't mind it. I do like how he has somehow managed to make the camera flow. Well, not somehow. He's done it with his powers, but they kind of did that so that they could have more interesting angles and they could have like crane shots and they could have all stuff. But that's fine. But yeah, overall I enjoy it. I don't even know what you think about the movie, honestly. Do you like it?
So I remember close to when the movie came out when I saw it, and I remember hearing really good things about it. And I remember liking the movie, and I thought it was really good, really well done. I've kind of cooled on it a little bit in the years. Yeah. I think it's still. I mean, I think I echo your thoughts a lot. I think there's a lot to it that's really innovative and interesting, and I like the way the powers are manifested and the way they kind of show it and how realistic it is. But for me, I just have mixed feelings about this movie, and I think it's mostly because of the people behind the scenes, and it just feels like ultimately this movie feels very mean-spirited to me. Really? Like these guys who get the powers, there's no altruism about it. Now the main guy, Alex Russell, his character Matt, talks about altruism and using the powers for good, but ultimately he doesn't really. He does it to stop Dane DeHaan's character, sorry, but he doesn't really do it for good. And they're more interested in, pranking people and or injuring people and stuff like that, and that just doesn't resonate with me. As an audience member, I just don't get why people who get these powers want to do mean things. I can understand a few little pranks in the beginning, but it just seems like the whole movie is just kind of them. There's mean people.
I do agree. They do spend a lot of time in the movie just giggling and doing things and moving cars and doing whatever.
Moving shopping carts for a lady or scaring a kid with the bear. I mean, some of that stuff's funny, but it just felt like it went on way, way too long.
Well, it goes on for a long time, and then it's like they realized, hey, we need to do something to set up the third act, so we have to have Dane DeHaan's mental stability kind of go and start to erode and do whatever. I agree with that.
And I thought they kind of gave, they gave Dane DeHaan a lot to work with, so you can kind of understand why he goes to where he goes to and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But so like I said, I just kind of have mixed feelings. I do think it's still a good movie and it's worth checking out if you're curious and stuff like that. But I don't think it's as awesome as or as great as I thought it was when it initially kind of came out. And for me also, I am not a big found footage fan. I don't like the cinema verite. I mean, I know we've talked about this. I don't know if we talked about this on camera, but that whole style doesn't work for me. It feels, and I don't know how many people in the audience feel this way, but to me, every time there's a cinema verite or they're moving the camera where they're trying to make it look realistic, feels totally false to me and feels fake, and it just actually takes me completely out of the movie.
Yeah.
Because the whole time I'm like, oh, why are they moving the camera this way? It doesn't feel organic to me where, so I'm not predisposed to movies that are shot in this kind of manner,
It's just not novel anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the first found footage movie that I saw was Blair Witch Project, and that was over 20 years ago. That was 1999. And I mean, since then we've been plagued with a lot of found footage. And again, I did. It's not like I hated it from the get go, but now I am kind of tired of it because it's not new. I mean,
and it still wasn't novel when Chronicle came out.
Yeah,
like it was passé.
Yeah, right.
So so that's kind of how I felt about it. I'm with you. I think Alex Russell is just kind of okay in the movie. He's does a serviceable job, doesn't stand out. I think Michael B. Jordan was the standout of this movie. You can just he has charisma and he plays a charismatic guy, so it just kind of worked for him in this movie.
Well, I hope that one day Dane DeHaan gets a good night's sleep because that boy always looks tired.
Yeah. They probably play into it.
He always looks sleepy.
So, did you look up any critic reviews or?
Yeah, so I was gonna say, I guess kind of my final thought about the movie is I almost wish I would have seen it back when it came out, and I didn't know anything about Josh because I wouldn't have known anything about Josh Trank back then, but now the whole time I'm thinking about like, okay, how's this gonna be or whatever. So I've got these expectations behind it. Since he's done Chronicle, this just puts things in perspective. Fantastic Four, I looked this up today. Fantastic Four is 9% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Capone fares slightly better. It's 41%. Still not fresh. Yeah. But Chronicle is 85% critic score, 71% audience score. Roger Ebert gave it thumbs up. Gene Siskel, again, had passed away by the time this movie came out. And Leonard Maltin gives it 3 stars. So it's got pretty decent, reviews or whatever from at least those people.
Yeah.
And it's, like I say, it's 85% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. It's pretty good.
And I was looking around the time, this came out. We had the Iron Man movie, we had the Incredible Hulk movie, we had the Thor movie, and I think we had the first Captain America movie that was, that kind of came out right around that time. So this was kind of a breath of fresh air, before that would be what Marvel's movies become with the steam engine, the 800-pound gorilla that the Marvel movies will become.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of played into that a little bit too. And, like I said, I don't like it as much as I remember liking it, but I do think if you're curious about it, it is worth checking out. And I do think the audience score and the critics' aggregated score do seem pretty on point to me.
Yeah, and again, even if you watch it and you don't like it, it's 80 minutes, 82 minutes. It's short, so it's not like you're going to spend your whole day watching a bad movie, even if you don't like it.
All right, so that was our review on Chronicle. I was going to say the next movie. So before we talk about what movie we're going to see next, we kind of like to talk about the reason why we did it. Mm-hmm. And this actually took me a while to find a good movie to pair with Chronicle, because I wanted to pair another superhero movie, but I didn't know if I wanted to find one that kind of had the same tone or whatnot with it. And, what I kind of settled on was maybe doing another lower budget superhero movie to go with it. And, I remember around the time there was like other superhero movies that came out, like Paperman with Ryan Reynolds, and there was Griff the Invisible with the Suki Stackhouse's brother in it. He starred in it. And then there was Special with Michael Rappaport. Mm-hmm. And I remember all these movies kind of coming out around that same time.
Defendor with Woody Harrelson.
Defendor.
Yeah.
I've seen none of these. So I went with another movie that I've seen before and another director that would go on to direct a large franchise of superhero movies. And that is Super, written and directed by James Gunn. So I figured whether they're not exactly the same kind of tone of movie, but they feel similar in budget and all that kind of stuff. So I figured it would be an interesting pairing and they came within 2 years of each other. So I figured it'd be an interesting pairing to kind of put these two superhero movies together. And so that's why I chose Super, and that's the one we're going to follow up this review with. Very Yoda way of saying that. So with all that being said, if you have an email, we answer viewer emails on our Wednesday shows. Shoot us an email, realshame@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram @realshame. Like, subscribe, do all those things because it actually does help. And we will see you next time with our review from a movie from our list of shame, which is Super. See you next time, guys.